Hello again, Andy Franco with the iConnect Zone in District 49. We're back with session 2 of our board training. Today's session is titled Communication and Board Training. In this session, we're going to spend some time developing strategies of communication that promote best practices aligned to board meetings and the Sunshine Law. In addition, participants will learn about the importance of developing a strategic plan, conducting a board self-assessment, and engaging in continuous training. So let's get started. Let's talk about holding productive board meetings. Holding a productive board meeting is directly correlated to the preparation taken by the individual board members. Most productive board meetings include the use of Robert's Rules of Order. If you're not familiar with Robert's Rules, it's something that you can easily research on the internet or even purchase a book at your local bookstore. It is a systematic way to operate board meetings, and it's something that you should become familiar with as a director on the charter school board that you serve for. Excuse me. Another productive quality is a well-defined agenda that is set before the meeting. So going into the meeting, you should know what is prepared for the agenda of that meeting, and you should, as a board, do your very best to stick to that agenda. At times, there's going to need to be some modifications to the agenda, but for the most part, you want to stick to the agenda that's been developed before the meeting and posted. Next, you want to make sure that you're working off of a defined board calendar. Every year, there are going to be certain requirements that the board must take action on, and those things should be added to your calendar well in advance, making sure that you hit each item during the month that you are supposed to make sure that you completed those objectives. Next, it's good practice to use a dashboard. This is usually used for reporting purposes. You've got a lot of different people within your organization that need to report out and provide updates to your board. So I highly recommend using a dashboard to inform the board of the different things that are going on. In particular, your executive director or school principal, head of school, may use a dashboard to provide information about academic progress, enrollment, finances are a good thing to keep track of in the dashboard, as well as any strategic plan oversight that you want to keep track of as well. Next, a well-prepared committee report is essential. Sometimes your board will break into different working committees, and making sure that you've got good information coming back to the whole board that's sufficient to keep an effective update of that information is usually submitted in the form of a report. That report can be a pre-read by the entire board, and then a discussion can be had in an efficient manner during the board meeting. Finally, developing and implementing and revisiting and revising the strategic plan, making sure that your board has a concrete strategic plan in place and a process for reviewing those priorities, and then making sure that there's opportunity to revise as needed will help in the process of holding a productive meeting. As a director, you can best prepare for board meetings by reviewing the board packet before the board meeting. This is really essential to keep things moving during the meeting, making sure you have the information. Your board packet should be developed at least 24 hours in advance, but more likely, a more effective strategy would be have that board packet out about a week in advance. That gives you, the board members, an opportunity to read through the information and prepare any questions that you might have for the board meeting. Next, you want to make sure you familiarize yourself with important supporting documents such as the charter contract, board policies, and your board bylaws. This is something that I would encourage you to review every year, just making sure that you're familiar with all of those different documents so that you know how you are supposed to perform as a board and what your mission critical statements are that are included in your charter contract. Next, and not certainly least, familiarize yourself with the roles of the board members and the roles of administration. Really understanding the clear lanes that you have to stay in as a governing board versus the operators of the school, the administration, is really important. Included in that is making sure that your administration is actually doing what they're supposed to do to operate the school efficiently and effectively. You want to make sure that you know your role as a board member, whether that's as an officer or as a director, and making sure that you're familiar enough so that you can act in that way during the board meeting will help create productive board meetings. The next thing I want to talk about is the Colorado Open Records Act, or the Sunshine Law. This is in particularly good to know about because you are held accountable for this as a board in Colorado. Charter boards are recipients of public funds and are therefore subject to CORA, or the Colorado Open Records Act, and the Sunshine Law. As a board, there should be no expectation of privacy. You're a public board that needs to operate in public meetings. Discussion and decisions must be made in open sessions. That means that they should be something that the public are welcome to and invited to. And the executive sessions must meet the legal requirements as stated in statute. So in the event that a board must go into a private conversation, you must enter into the executive conversation or executive session to discuss items that meet the letters of the law or the statute. And the content discussed within executive session cannot be discussed outside of executive session. So you should be signing a board confidentiality statement that says that you as a board member will honor the executive session and make sure that you won't discuss those items outside of the executive session. Another good thing to note is that in executive session, the board cannot take action. So if you are discussing an item that does need further action, you need to come out of that executive session before the action is taken. Another key element of the Sunshine Law is that board meeting agendas must be posted 24 hours in advance of the public meeting in a designated area. Each year, your board should be taking the practice of defining where your posting area is going to be and taking action to make sure that that is recognized by public in your meetings as well. The next thing is that board meeting minutes must be taken and archived, and they must be available for public review at request. And so meeting minutes must be taken each time you meet as a public board, and then you must approve those meetings at the next board meeting and then make those available for public to review. So really the encouragement here is to be aware and maintain a Sunshine Law and maintain the Sunshine Law, and make sure that if there is a request to be included on the Sunshine List, that you are maintaining that as well. The Sunshine List is simply any community members or people affiliated with your organization that request to be notified when the board is going to be meeting. You need to keep them informed by making sure that they are noticed individually, because they should be on what is called your Sunshine List. Our assignments for this particular session are going to be specific about the Sunshine Law, and so you'll have an opportunity to review some more documents and learn a little bit more about the Sunshine Law in just a bit. The next thing I want to talk about is strategic planning and the board self-evaluation. Strategic planning is critical to the success of the charter school and the board of directors. Strategic planning best practices include a clear mission and vision statement that aligns to the charter application and your charter contract. Make sure you review those documents, and if there are any changes to your mission and vision, that you're contacting your authorizer and talking about what the process is for making any changes to your mission and vision statement. Next, a good practice is to get input from all your stakeholders, which includes a SWOT analysis. This is usually a survey type tool that identifies the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats to your organization. The most important aspect of this is making sure that you gain input from the stakeholders that you're representing. This would be families or community members, the educators, of course, and even students. Next, you want to see that there are timelines in place for progress monitoring. So as you develop your strategic priorities and include them in your strategic plan, make sure you also develop a timeline for when you'll evaluate the progress towards meeting those objectives and goals, and also make sure that you have a routine for just in your meetings reviewing what your priorities are. Make sure that you have defined roles and responsibilities related to the strategic priorities. Everybody's going to play a part in achieving your strategic plan. So there might be different roles that need to accomplish different tasks, and those should be defined in your strategic plan. And lastly, as I said, make sure that you have time for a regular review of your strategic priorities and monitor the progress towards your goals. The board's self-evaluation is a critical tool to measure the board's growth. This should be done annually. The self-evaluation tool should be used to develop the governance goals and monitor progress. Let's talk a little bit about key elements to a board self-evaluation. Things that you might want to include are an understanding or an evaluation of the board's foundational documents, like your articles of incorporation, your bylaws, and what your best practices are. You also might want to consider how to evaluate your operations and relations with, as far as the meeting productivity. Do your board members attend meetings regularly? Is your attendance good? You also might want to evaluate your relationship with the school director or the principal. A good board evaluation tool should consider personnel and staffing from year to year. Do you have vacancies? Do you tend to have a lot of turnover? Are there things that the board could be doing to ensure that the school is better equipped to retain quality staff members? Should also be considering budget and finance, of course, making sure that your board is governing good practices around budgeting and finance and evaluating that on an annual basis. You should have some understanding of the instruction and assessment model. And as a board, you should have a process for evaluating your input in that process. Meaning, do you have good conversation about the academics? Does your school leader inform you as a board about how academics are going at the school level? And finally, you need to have input from your parents, your teachers, and your staff. That's really important. You are representing these folks as you lead, as board members, and so evaluating how the process is working between those entities or those stakeholders is really, really important as well. All right, the next thing that we want to talk about is continuous board training. As you're doing right now, you are getting more board training to make sure that you grow as a board member. Continuous board training is critical to the health and the success of charter boards. Board training is necessary for the newest members as well as the veteran directors. Differentiating training is necessary to effectively meet the needs of each director and grow the board as a whole. Key training practices should include annual training for professional development for all members. An annual board retreat is recommended where sufficient time can be spent addressing key issues. If possible, it is highly recommended boards attend state or national conferences where they can grow and learn together, as well as network with other individuals who are on charter boards. To wrap up today's session, I'd like you to complete the following assignments. First, review your board's strategic plan, the self-evaluation tool, and your annual posting location. If you don't have one of these items, have a discussion with your board chair about what needs to be done to make sure that you do put those in place. Second, read the documents that we provided for you regarding the Colorado Open Records Act and the Sunshine Law. And finally, answer some questions regarding the meeting requirements and submit your responses into Schoology. I hope you've learned a lot through this session, and we look forward to talking with you again more in session 3. Thanks and have a good day.